the conversation with defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Shan Wu, Tennessee State Representative Aftyn Behn, and Bryan Lanza, former senior advisor to the Trump 2024 campaign. Good to have all of you here. And of course, I mean, I'm being facetious when I talk about precedent, but stranger things have happened recently. I want to wonder from you, Shan, the Supreme Court seems to be kind of open to expanding the power of the executive branch. There's this floating unitary theory of, kind of, I say it's the good to be the king philosophy of things. Will they embrace the deference to Trump here? Would they say, look, do what you want?
Well, I think the Trump administration is going to be pretty happy with anything in front of the Supreme Court anytime they have an issue where it could expand presidential power.
But why are we so sure about that?
Because they gave him all that immunity. That's why I think. And it's an old conservative idea that the president is being too constrained here and the executive needs to sort of move back into the spotlight. Here on the tariffs issue, I think it's a little bit of an uphill climb because it's so obvious that the word doesn't appear in the statute. So I think that's a little bit of an uphill climb for them. And I know that Neil Katyal earlier today in talking about it had said that
former Solicitor General of the United States.
Right, exactly, who argued the case, does say that the court, when the law is very clear, can rise above whatever conservative ideology they have. So we'll see. I'm not that optimistic, but I do think here it's pretty clear cut that the word tariff isn't in that statute, so that's a hard hill to climb.
Trump is, he's posting on Truth Social, Bryan, that if the tariffs ever went away, and these are his words, it would be kind of a total disaster for the country, I'm paraphrasing. How much does his agenda, though, hinge on whatever the Supreme Court rules? Is that why there's such an investment?
No, listen, I think the first immediate problem is does the court make the decision that that they have to return the money? That's what nearly $500 million that they almost had to return overnight. I don't think any apparatus exists for that to take place. And now the Trump administration is trying to send out these dividend checks to this resident, so the money's may not even be there. It is chaotic. $500 million is a big gap to fill if they were to lose, and that becomes very chaotic. But ultimately, the policy of the president and why tariffs play a role in it is he wanted to expedite the remanufacturing of the United States, and his team felt that they could use tariffs to bring that type of manufacturing back. The goal is still the same. We want to reindustrialize and remanufacture the United States. If it means we can't use tariffs, there's going to be other means to do it. You're going to be able to incentivize business to bring supply chains out of China because we've made the decision from a policy standpoint that China is not a reliable source for our supply chain.
So Aftyn, obviously the word tariffs, not politically sexy, but to voters, to consumers, to business owners, the repercussions and results of tariffs, very important. Is this where Democrats should be hammering home the point?
Absolutely. One, I believe Trump absolutely overstepped his authority. Two, tariffs were never about protecting American workers. They were about punishing political opponents of President Trump and rewarding allies. And this decision will yield a double devastation in terms of inflation and high tariffs.
What about Lisa Cook in terms of the presidential maybe oversteps? This is what her lawyer is saying, Abby Lowell, that there was no due process, these are just allegations. There is a hidden agenda, which people are talking about, because if she's gone, he can install somebody else there, and then maybe have a little bit more of a malleable Fed to talk about this. Is this going to be a focus on the judge? Because it is kind of uncharted territory here.
Well, it's very uncharted territory. I mean, there's not really good exact case law for what standard defines the cause in this instance. I think the difficulty here is the theme I think you see in both the tariffs and with the Lisa Cook matter is kind of haste on the part of Trump. Like he's not willing to wait for anything to play out. Tariffs could have gone to Congress, didn't, wants to just assert it. Lisa Cook could have at least wait. You mentioned wait for the investigation to conclude. It's barely begun. He could have waited for there to be some meat to the allegation, not to mention the fact that if you do look at the idea that it's got to be malfeasance while she's in office, this was before she was in office, but by moving so quickly, none of this gets played out, and it causes that chaos.
Well, politically, haste is in their favor in terms of Republicans with redistricting, right? Usually you wait until the census comes out every 10 years to do so. Haste worked in their favor to try to get that happening. Is this what Democrats have to respond to, the sort of hasty approach because they can't maybe get their ducks in a row to respond?
I mean, this boils down to Trump wanting to install loyalists who will prioritize his political interest over the economic stability of this country. And Democrats are saying they are yelling quite loud about this, that we do not believe that loyalists should be in these positions. We should have experts that are in charge of our economy.
Do voters see it the same way, you think? Because you look at the idea of, they want to maintain the majority. They want to be able to have in California their own say of who gets to decide the districts. But do you think that the idea of loyalists is the issue for them, or that this is just power run amok at this point?
I mean, President Trump is not talking about lowering grocery taxes. He is not talking about making rent more affordable. He is spending his time stacking the Federal Reserve with his loyalists. And as costs continue to rise, as inflation goes up, that is what voters are concerned about right now.
Brian, Missouri is coming into play now as well. They're talking about, through their governor, maybe redistricting as well. The proposed map would net them, I think, one particular seat as well. Is this the frontier? I mean, are they so concerned, Republicans, about losing 2026 that they're going to be hasty in one respect, but also just redistrict their way to office?
Yeah, listen, I think part of the problem, that took place in 2020 when they did the redistricting is, they actually tried to have a process where, the winners didn't go to spoils, right? Texas could clearly do 5 more seats. Florida can clearly pick up 3 more seats. Indiana can pick up 2. We didn't do that. And I think Trump is of the Trump.
But wait, what's the point you're saying?
The
we
point
did
is,
that, now we're doing it now.
Yeah,
Either
absolutely.
Way, but the question I'm asking though is the reason for doing so a real fear for Republicans that you're going to lose the majority, or is there some other thing I'm missing?
I think if we lose the majority, history has shown us that it tends to be these wave elections. And so 5 to 7 seats is not going to sort of stop the wave from taking place. If we lose the majority, next November, not this November, but the following November, it's going to be because the economic conditions are so bad that 10 extra seats are not going to be able to save us.
So the piecemeal approach is trying to add more than 10. Maybe other states look into that. Are Democrats concerned about this not just being these states, but more and more to get to a critical mass?
Republicans are rigging midterms because their agenda is wildly unpopular, and that is why they are going state to state and threatening Republican governors to do this. And I believe that politicians shouldn't be the one choosing their voters.
What's your response? Are you rigging an election, Republicans? You're
No,
a
I mean,
strategist.
this is the process. I mean, gerrymandering has existed for nearly the existence of this country.
Yeah, but
the
we don't
Democrats
like it, though.
I've never complained about it. I actually think to the winners go the spoils. I'm from California, where Republicans always lose, and we've lost the spoils. But we see states like Florida, we see states like Texas who can maximize the Republican numbers. Let's do it.
You've never complained about gerrymandering?
No, I love gerrymandering.
Really? You love gerrymandering? I'm going to get you the T-shirt. You might regret that. You will? You like all gerrymandering?
Right now it serves us, so
political
yes.
base? Wow, this is so we talked to my lawyer for a second. You and I have been prosecutors before, and we look at the Constitution and, of course, the Voting Rights Act and other things. Gerrymandering is a horrible thing in terms of the history of it. Politically speaking, the Supreme Court, though, says that partisan gerrymandering is not as bad as race-based gerrymandering. Looking ahead to the future of it, will the Supreme Court continue to revisit this issue, given that there is a newfound affinity for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with the Supreme Court is they don't see anything as race-based. And so therefore, they're not going to find any problems with this. I completely get what you're saying about why you like it, because it's such a political power move that when you win, you win. But from a legal standpoint, if you think there should be guardrails in place, it's horrible. And really, they should be done away with entirely. At least some states are having, like in California, they're first putting it to the voters if they're going to change the districting situation. And there should be more of that. I mean, it should not be just a complete raw power play, but this is certainly the age for raw power plays.
Wow. I don't know, where am I right now? Hold on a second. I'm trying to find Earth where we hate gerrymandering in the United States of America. I just remember there was a Voting Rights Act, but I'll try to find it in the studio later. It must be gone. California is coming to mind, though. We're talking about California and, of course, Governor Gavin Newsom. He says, of course, that he is deploying state police teams to cities across the state to try to fight crime. Of course, state crime, he says, is dropping across the state as well. Is this going to deter Trump from trying to do what he's doing in Washington, D.C. to California?
Yeah, isn't that the goal of Gavin Newsom? What he's trying to do is he's trying to give reasons for Trump not to actually deploy the troops by finally enforcing the laws, finally increasing. Listen, the voters of California passed a proposition last election cycle to focus on the small crime, to put these people in jail who've done the shoplifting, who've done the carjackings, who've done these things. Gavin Newsom immediately stopped funding that program. So he's responsible for the crime increase in California, and we can say that crime's gone down, But if we look at what's happened in District of Columbia, we've learned that those crime numbers have been manipulated. So wouldn't be surprised.
They've alleged to be manipulated.
Sure.
There's been an allegation of
Yep,
manipulation.
yep.
I hear what you're saying, but on that point, okay, if crime is the focus and that's the issue, then wouldn't this be in different red states as well? I mean, you've got places like Louisiana, they've got a homicide rate that is
Well,
four
let's be
times.
clear.
Hold on, I'm gonna
It's
finish.
New Orleans, not the state, and New Orleans is a Dem-run city.
Louisiana's homicide rate is 4 times higher than California. John Berman asked the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, who's from the state of Louisiana,
Yep.
okay, if he would support sending the Guard to Shreveport, not New Orleans, but to Shreveport to fight crime. Listen to what he said.
So would the Guard help? If the Guard can help in D.C., the president has said he wants to send the Guard to Chicago and other places. Why not Shreveport?
I don't know. That's not my call.
Would you
it may
ask
be
him for that?
necessary. Well, I don't know. Let's take one city at a time and see. We have to address the crime problem in any city where it's a problem like that.
One city at a time. Something tells me the list and the priorities are just different. What do you say?
I think Governor Newsom's deployment of state police isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a direct result of the overreach of President Trump. And I think President Trump has his interest in nationalizing the Guard, has a lot of governors across this country on edge. The National Guard, like in Tennessee, is to be used to mitigate disasters, to prepare for disasters, the next tornado, the flood, and that's not what's happening right now.
How do you address voters who say, look, I don't want crime. Whatever will help, fine. I'm fine with.
Well, taking the Tennessee National Guard out of our cities and out of our state to prepare for the next disaster is not the solution.
Well,
More boots on the ground always helps. And what we've had, since the defund the police movement, we've had law enforcement and never hit the numbers that they've hit before. So they're still lower than what they've been, and that's why they need more boots on the ground.
I mean, at least the state police are police versus being soldiers, and at least that maybe they'll have a better sense of how to actually
but look what it took Gavin Newsom to finally do something about it. It took Trump, the threat of Trump, bringing in the National Guard for him to say, maybe I should do something. Oh, by the way, it appears to be popular in Washington, D.C. Maybe this works here.
It's not popular in Washington, D.C.
oh, wait, hold on.
Totally not.
Be careful, you gotta drive home.
You turned to Steve to take umbrage with that. Do you think that Gavin Newsom was waiting for Trump to act to be able to govern?
No, I think it's a response. I think, as I said, governors feel incredibly anxious right now, and they're trying to preempt President Trump from his overreach, which he's overreaching now almost every day, every minute.
Every hour.
Oh, every minute, every hour. Well, here's a good hour, the Laura Coates Live Hour. Thank you all so much.